Welcome back everyone. In this video we're going to look at a case statement. Now the case statement is equivalent to an if then else statement if you've done any coding before. It essentially gives an output based upon a number of choices that you present to SQL. And as usual, the best way of demonstrating this and learning about it is through an example. So in this example we're looking at the check payee, the check description and the check amount, and then we're going to bring an output out based upon values that exist in specific columns. So there's an additional column that's going to be produced, and in this case we're going to call it payment size, and that column's value will be determined by a number of choices that we have, and those choices use the values in a specific column or columns to determine what the output's going to be. So in this case we have when the check amount is less than £500, then we mark that as small. When the check amount is between 500 and 2000, we mark that as medium. And that output we call payment size. Now there's a third option here, which is that if the check amount is neither satisfying this condition or this condition, then the output will be just not interested. It's important to note that the data type should be the same for any choice that is made in the case statement, whether it's in the when or in the else, because it's all going into one column name, in this case payment size, so the data type has to be consistent for all options. So essentially what we're doing, we're saying that we're looking for payment size. We're keen to determine whether it's a small or a medium amount, but we're not interested in anything else really. Let's run this and we'll see what the output is. So as you see, it's gone through every record in the transaction table, and it says, okay, let's look at this check amount, £350. That fits into this condition here, so we've marked it as small. And you see small here in the payment size column. And the payment size is what we call the output from this case statement. Now you can have any number of conditions, but what's essential to understand is that when the first one is satisfied, that's when SQL will come out of this selection of choices and SQL will go on to the next column to be selected. In this case, we end at the payment size column. That's the last column we're interested in. So we're bringing out check payee, check description, check amount, and then we use this case statement to determine what payment size will be printed as. And that choice is based upon a number of conditions that we look to satisfy. So that's basically what a case statement does. It's similar, as I said, to an if then else statement in conventional coding that you may have come across. Now there's some variations to this that we need to be aware of. But let's take a look at one or two of them. So in this example, what we're doing, we're saying select first name, and then based upon whether the contact type is private or not, produce the last name value. Okay. If it's not a private contact, just print business in that column. And we're calling the column last name. We can call it anything we want. We could say surname if we wanted to, or second name, right? And if we run that, you see second name is used as the column value, because even though for private contacts we're producing the last name value, it's this column name that the case statement uses as its output. And it uses this in this second column here. So a slight permutation on the previous one. In this one, we determine the output as a string value in all scenarios. But in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to do a mix, yeah? We're going to say that if the contact type is private, then produce the value of the last name as the output. If it's not private, then we're going to produce a string value. So we're actually choosing a value which is in the record itself, the last name column value, if it's a private contact. Otherwise, we're just going to put a string value. So you see the difference between the two case statements. In this case, whatever the choice that we had, we produced a string value as an output to be used as payment size. But in this scenario, we're using both a string value as a potential output or a column value as a potential output, and we're going to label it a second name. So when I run that, you see that the private contacts have got their first and second name given, and commercial contacts have got their first name and then business printed for their second name. Okay, so a slight permutation on the previous one. And there's one more I want to go through quickly. So what are we doing here? Right, we've got only one column output here. Okay, if you look here, we're going to call that column output contact name. So we're combining the first and the second name, or the first and the last name rather, only when it's a contact type of private. So you see this concatenation here. See, case when the contact type is private, then combine a space and the last name to the first name. However, if it's a business, we're just going to combine business with the first name. So here's the first name. That's always going to be produced. Okay, the case comes after that. So the scenario is, if it's a contact which is private, then we're concatenating a space in the last name. Otherwise, we're concatenating business. There's a space there as well. So when we run that, slightly different output this time. We're combining everything into one column, okay? One output, which is contact name. So you see the private contacts, all of their first and second name combined. We put a space in here to ensure that there was a space between the first and the second name. But when we get to a commercial contact, we see the first name and then business concatenated to the first name. So that's a slight permutation again on the previous examples I've given. So I hope that's made clear to you how to use case and the different variations on how you can implement it. Have a practice and leave any comments that you want to. Thank you very much.